having a business meeting with Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals. Today's Tuesday, February 5th, 2019. First order of business, finance.
Sure.
Patty, would you please walk us through that?
Your first sheet is just the postage meter. We're doing pretty good. We have over 200 in there. The last one was this hearing tonight, and then the next hearing for March. And then we have some other ones I just kind of scribbled on there. But we're good. We got to keep a minimum of 50. So we'll probably be good till a good while, I think. Revolving account. The last deposit. One second. It's 4 Carlton Drive. It's 800. That's for next month. And then there's revolving hours ending. And then there's another one coming in. Well, it's in. I just haven't had time to do it yet. That's and then there's 2 more coming for that, but on the total page behind that, so amount spent is 116,914 and fees to date 2,900 with 57 revolving hours.
It's as of when, Patty? I can't remember when the 7/1, right? No.
Yeah, fees from 7/1 on.
Yeah, this goes to what, the end date for the fiscal year?
At the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, so it
To date,
goes,
fiscal year 7/1. Yeah. Okay.
so 6/30/19 it ends.
Okay.
And the other, B under new business is just, budget presentation schedule. It's just this Saturday up here, May 30 on, and I'm going with Sean for that. And then that's all I have under new business.
Okay. We need to approve
Minutes.
business and hearing minutes of January 8th, 2019. Do I have a
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I was absent.
Yeah, Jeff.
All those in favor?
Well, we're just approving business, because I can't,
Business and,
I have to abstain from Mello,
And hearing
Yeah.
minutes?
so I think we have to do 2 different motions.
yep, let's do 2.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve business minutes of 1/8/2019?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention.
Can I get a second motion for hearing minutes of January 8th of 2019?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
One abstention.
One abstention.
Two, actually.
Gina
Two.
Oh, 2.
and
Jeff and
Dave Twist.
Jeff
Oh,
and-
sorry.
Jeff.
Jeff and Gina
Yeah.
abstain.
There was no discussion on that.
No, just no testimony
No
taken.
testimony.
Okay.
Okay, correspondence.
Correspondence.
I may have given you this before, but I wasn't sure. This is from the building inspector, to Nancy McCann for map 15, lot 46, Carlton Drive property for G Mello disposal. This is his zoning determination. I think I may have given you this before, but I stuck it in there at the last minute because I wasn't too sure. The next one, so, yeah, that's the other property. The next one is, let me know when you're ready. And then this one is the one for 65 Central Street. That I have to do a legal ad and get to you guys, but I just haven't started. Cool. We have time.
How much time do you?
We're within 65 days,
Okay.
so it's up, once I get that to you, just let me know. I'll let you know if we can fit it, and you let me know if that's okay. But this is, for 7 units, on the second floor above CVS.
Okay.
No changes to the footprint at all.
Mr. Chair, if I could add one letter to correspondence. Patty, I think that letter that you gave me earlier probably should be brought in from West Street.
Yeah, this was the extension.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, is it okay if I
Please.
read this letter in
Yes,
as well?
please,
'Cause
thanks.
This was not distributed to the board. This was dated January 29th, 2019, from Sean addressed to you regarding 47 West Street, request for modification pursuant to 760 CMR 56.0511. Chairman Dean, pursuant to the discussion with your clerk, Patty Pitari, this morning, please accept this correspondence as agreement by the applicant for the board to reschedule a meeting to discuss the above referenced modification on March 5th, 2019. Furthermore, the applicant also agrees to extend the time for the board to provide written notice to the applicant of its determination on whether the proposed modification is substantial pursuant to 760 CMR 56.0511 to March 12th, 2019. If you have any questions regarding this correspondence, please feel free to contact me. So they'll be coming before us for a business decision.
Do we
next
have to
month.
respond to that in writing?
We do not.
Okay.
Town council has reviewed this letter and agreed that meeting on, regularly scheduled business meeting on March 5th.
Yep, I
right?
stamped
That's
it.
great.
I took it to the town clerk. I
Perfect.
didn't know if I needed to, but I did it just to be on the safe side. And I sent it back to Attorney Harvey.
West Street, I'm not.
So that will be in business, a decision by the board whether or not what they're asking to change is substantial or not. So they'll present that change to
Yep.
us next month.
Okay.
And what I emailed you
Will not be a
guys.
hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there
That
a
would come
hearing on
later
the
if-
merits of anything, or just the determination?
Right.
Okay.
If it's major, we have, I think it's just 30 days to open with a 40B.
So we'd have to take them next, we'd have to
Oh,
take them in
yeah,
April?
we gotta do it like right away.
Okay.
I don't know if it's 20 or 30, I think it's 30 still. But Town council will.
Sorry for that interruption.
No, we.
Hopefully be here.
You did that, thank you. What else?
And
No new
I just-
correspondence?
Nope, and I distributed the 4 Carlton Drive for next month. That's it.
Anything else from the board?
Nope.
Anything else? No?
Good, Sean, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to close business?
I'll make a motion to close the business meeting for 2/5/19.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, business is closed.
Who seconded that?
Start in 5 minutes.
No one seconded it.
Jeff seconded.
Yeah,
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yep, we'll start
Come back along.
the public hearing for 51 West Main Street at 7:30. 5 minutes, we can go off though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, they'll give you
Yes.
guys some time to set up. Hello again, Nancy.
Hello again, how are you?
Good.
Through that easel. And I put a pink sticky on it. We don't get mixed up. Oh, she did that fast.
We're not late for
Yeah.
business.
We'll turn that
I
around,
was
Gina.
just about to call.
Okay, go on.
We're on.
Where the, I can wait for you.
It is 7:34-ish, and we're opening the public hearing for 51 West Main Street. Welcome. I'm going to open the meeting by reading the rules of procedure. This Board of Appeals will conduct the meeting according to rules laid out in Chapter 48 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Robert's Rules of Order, and its own particular set of rules, entitled Rules of Procedure, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk. Another copy is available from the clerk at this meeting. This meeting is being tape recorded for the purposes of making minutes. Once minutes are approved, the tape may be taped over. Jeff, do you mind reading the legal ad for
Yeah,
me, sir? Thank
sure.
you.
Legal notice, Town of Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals for 51 West Main Street. A public hearing will be held on February 5th, 2019 at 7:30 PM at the Georgetown Town Hall, 3rd floor meeting room for an application filed by owner Triple Quality Development LLC, 65 Birch Street, Stoughton, Mass. 02072. And applicant John Colantoni and Triple Quality Development LLC, care of Nancy A.S. McCann, Esquire, 89 Newbury Street, Suite 302 in Danvers, Mass. 01923. The property located at 51 West Main Street, Georgetown, Mass. Assessors Map 11A, Lot 32 in the CA zone. The applicant is requesting a special permit to construct 7 townhouse units, 7 attached, at the rear of the lot. A special permit finding to allow the alteration of the existing non-conforming building by the removal of an existing addition and construction of a new smaller addition for commercial use. A special permit or finding, and to the extent necessary, a variance to allow the new townhouse building to be constructed more than 10 feet from the front lot line, and more than one building or use on the lot, all pursuant to Georgetown zoning bylaws, Chapter 165, Sections 8, 9, 10B, 68, 74 through 79, 81, 84, and 94. Use Schedule 165, Attachment 2, 8.4, use and footnote schedule. Use schedule footnote number 14 in Mass General Law 48, Sections 6, 9, and 10. Also found on the website for Mass Newspaper Publishers Association.
Thank you very much.
Well,
Wow, that was a mouthful. Thank
a
you.
lot of sections to review here.
And so, just to introduce the board, voting members tonight will be Gina Tebow, Jeff Moore, myself, I'm Chairperson Sean Dean, Paul Schillen, and then alternates will be David Twiss and Sharon Freeman.
So who are the 5 voting?
Oh, sorry, so 5. So Dave Twiss, if you don't mind. Do you mind being alternate, Sharon?
No, I'm fine.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any new correspondence? Did you do that yet?
I have, yes, I have. These last 2 are in the application, so I don't know if you need to read them or not, that's up to you. And the first 2 are not. I marked them as such. And the last one, Gina just pointed out, from Economic Development, has a typo on it. It says 51, it says Settlers Village, but it says 34 East Main Street, which is,
And it's not a 40B.
and it's not a 40B, so it's just a cut and paste typo on them.
Okay, so I'll read, first I'll read the email from Stephen, and please help me out here. Last name.
Your conservation agent?
Okay, Steve Pajemski.
Pajemski, dated Thursday, December 20th, 2018, to Patty Pitari, subject 51 West Main Street project. Patty, I received and reviewed the proposed project at 51 West Main Street and have a few comments. The commission reviewed and accepted the resources for this parcel at the November 15th, 2018 Conservation Commission meeting. One of the important determinations made was that the resource labeled pond on the plan is very likely a vernal pool. Under the Georgetown Wetlands regulations, the required buffer for vernal pools is a solid do not disturb 100 feet. All 7 new units are shown to be within the 100-foot buffer, with the closest one being at at approximately 45 feet. Grading and BPMs are also shown within this do not disturb zone, counter to the requirements of the wetland regulations. All these issues will have to get resolved as part of a NOI that will need to get filed with the commission. At the November meeting, the applicant said the NOI would be in the following week. To date, I have not received any applications. Any additional questions, feel free to ask. Thanks, Steve.
That would be after.
Excuse me, could you speak up a little?
Oh, absolutely, no problem. The next is correspondence dated January 7th, 2019, to the Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals relative to 51 West Main Street. Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals, the Georgetown Fire Department support the proposed renovations to the existing structure and the addition of proposed townhouse-style residence. The proposed building renovation/addition must meet all existing Mass General Laws 527 CMR and NFPA fire codes pertaining to the property's proposed use. Also, the proposed townhouse residential units must meet all existing Mass General Law 527 Code of Mass Regs and NFPA fire codes. Finally, ensure that fire department has adequate access to the property in case of emergency response. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. Thank you, Chief Fred A. Mitchell, Jr., Georgetown Fire Department.
I think these can be read in later.
Okay. I'd like the applicants to introduce themselves at this time.
Thank you very much. My name is Nancy McCann. I am an attorney from Danvers, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant Triple Quality Development, LLC. Also with me tonight is the applicant John Colantoni. We also have Thad Berry, the project engineer, is here this evening, as well as John Duggar, the project architect.
And just for folks in attendance here, you'll have a chance to come up and state your name and have public comments. But first, we'll let the applicant begin by giving their presentation of the issues at hand. Do I need to read all this in hand?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think we can let them get going. We can do all this at the same time. How's that?
Please proceed.
Ready for me? All right. Thank you very much. We're excited to be here tonight with this project. It was a long legal ad that you had to read with a lot of different sections in the zoning bylaw were referenced, but this really is a very interesting and exciting project that we're bringing to you tonight. This is the redevelopment of what's been referred to as the Settlers Antique property at 51 West Main Street. This project is going to give us the opportunity to do some historic preservation of the existing 1800s settlers building, provide some new commercial square footage and building to the downtown area, to provide some new residential units, specifically 7 townhouse-style units at the rear of the property, and will also give us the opportunity to clean up and restore the rear of the property, which has really been degraded over the years. I have some photographs of the site. The first one is of the existing settlers building that you see here, but I'd like to pass these around if it's all right with you.
Yes, please.
Which shows you the existing condition of the front portion of the building, which we're going to be restoring. And it also gives you some photographs of the rear of the property that has a number of different outbuildings and stuff that has accumulated over the years, and this project is going to give us the opportunity to clean all of that
If you don't mind,
up.
could you pass them this way, just because I believe Patty will have to mark them as
Sorry.
exhibits. Thank you.
Okay,
Is it just one set, Nancy?
just one sec, yeah.
To look at.
So, again, the property is at 51 West Main Street. It's in the CA zoning district, and it is a property that consists of approximately 1.76 acres of land. And we are proposing to restore the main building that's out front, that's right on the streetscape. It's set back about 12 feet from the road, and we're going to be restoring that building with the assistance and input from the Historic Commission that John has been working with for quite a number of months and part of our application package included their very strong letter of support for this project. As you move further into the site, there is an addition on that existing building that's going to be removed, and a new addition of a smaller size that's going to be put onto the building. It will make a very cohesive building that will retain the historic integrity of the existing building. So, restoration of the existing building, removal of a more recent addition that was put onto that building, and then putting on a new, smaller addition. That will be the commercial aspect of the site. We're proposing to use that building for commercial purposes that are permitted in the CA zoning district. retail space, maybe some office space, maybe a small restaurant type of space. And parking calculations were based on the more intense type of use. Then, moving to the rear of the site, we are proposing to clean up the area and construct 7 townhouse-style dwelling units. That falls under the definition of the zoning bylaw of an apartment house. It's not an apartment house, it's a townhouse-style building, but under your zoning bylaw, that's defined as an apartment house. That's permitted by special permit in the CA zoning district, and that's part of this application. So what we have here is what you see now. That's the existing building that's reflected in your photographs that we've passed around.
Nancy, pass it this way. I'm going to show the neighbors.
And this is what it will look like with the renovation. And the townhouse units will look like that. The design of the townhouse units has been created to reflect and be in sympathy with the historic design of the original front building. This is the existing conditions plan. This is the building that we've been talking about. This is the core section that will be restored, and this is the large addition that will be coming off with a new addition in the back. These are the outbuildings and structures that I referenced.
If folks are having a hard time seeing up here, you can turn around and there's a monitor right behind you. I don't know if that's helpful or it's even more difficult.
Did she put on the stud TV? I wonder.
Super Bowl TV going.
I don't know.
And this is the proposed site plan. Existing core, the new smaller addition, as you can see side by side, and then the townhouse style units in the back. These townhouse units meet the setback requirements for the side and the rear. The existing building, as I said, is 12 feet from the front lot line, and certainly these are set back further. The wetlands are located back in this area. The wetlands have been delineated by the Conservation Commission. And of course, we will be filing, as Steve Paczynski referenced in his letter, we will be filing, of course, with the Conservation Commission a notice of intent for any work that's located within the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. We are proposing internal circulation that is going to go over with you. We currently have 3 curb cuts on this property. We're reducing that down to 2 curb cuts. We have an adequate parking field for the commercial space up front, and then the townhouse units in the back will each have 2 parking spaces, and then we have about 5 guest parking spaces as well. We have met, as I indicated, with the Historic Commission. Oh, with regard to the townhouses, let me just be specific with regard to the size of those units. 2 of the townhouse units will be 3-bedroom units. 5 of the townhouse units will be 2-bedroom units. So 3 2-bedrooms, 5 2-bedroom units. We did meet with the Historic Commission last summer and received a letter of support for this project and the restoration that's going to be taking place with regard to the front historic building. We also met with the Economic Development Committee, and you do have a letter of support from the Economic Development Committee as well. We met with the Planning Board at their last meeting, and they did provide us with some input and had very favorable comments with regard to the project generally. A letter to you, I do know, was drafted by the planner. However, the planning board, I believe, was supposed to meet last week.
The last
and
meeting.
there were some illnesses, so they did not meet. So you don't have their recommendation because they did not meet to give a final review of that letter. But
Just I had sent you guys an email on January 10th with the link to that meeting. So if any of you watched it, you saw that they did comment and they did like the project. But it will be going for site plan approval through them for the parking and traffic and all that. I gave you a site plan package showing you what
Yep.
planning's gonna do.
Yep.
That's all.
Before I turn this over to Thad to take you through the plans in more detail, I wanted to give you a general overview. I did want to review with you the zoning relief that and approvals that we will be looking for this project as outlined in the application. First, as Patty just said, this, should you grant the necessary zoning approvals for us to proceed forward with this project, this of course will be going to site plan approval with the planning board for all of the technical reviews, stormwater management and traffic and all of the stuff that planning board gets into, as well as conservation. But with regard to what's before you is an application for a special permit for the apartment house, which is a special permit use in this zoning district. A special permit to permit more than one building on the lot, because of course we're proposing a second building in the rear of the property. A special permit to alter the existing historic building in the front, as well as a special permit for the creation of the second building in the back, which is set back more than 10 feet from the front lot line. I've also added in, should it be deemed necessary, a variance under footnote 14 because the building is located more than 10 feet from the front lot line. However, in the building inspector's determination, he did not indicate that that was necessary, and we have the existing building already out on the front streetscape, which is the intent of that particular footnote 14. So I think that is met here. With those permits and approvals in place, we would then be able to proceed for site plan approval. The result of this is going to be the restoration of a historic building in a visible area of town, redevelopment and cleaning up of the site that has been degraded. The wetlands will be addressed and improved in quality. Needed housing in the downtown area with these with these 7 new units that are being proposed, and good economic impact with some new quality commercial space as well in this area. The project has been specifically designed to address and to provide for utility services that are required for this development. Traffic circulation has been provided, and that'll go over that with you, as well as parking. And we think that the design of the building, both in the front as well as in the back, complements the original antique historic building that we have there. So I think at this point, I'd like the project engineer to walk us through the plan.
Please, thanks.
Good evening. My name is Thad Berry from ASP Design Group. I'm going to go back here to the existing conditions. And if you can look, there are these look like little black boxes. Those reflect the soil testing that we did with the Board of Health in order to determine the soil suitability for septic systems. Surprisingly, the soils were very good. They were gravel and sand, which is great for septic systems. What we did with this particular plan is try to highlight different conditions, surface conditions. The brown represents the existing building. This gray area here represents the existing paved parking area. This brown kind of hatched area represents gravel. The lined area represents an area out there that I'm trying to find probably the diplomatic word, that's disturbed with a lot of different
Stuff. I think that was the term I used. Stuff.
I'd like to point out that some of this stuff that's there encroaches into the wetlands here. So Another thing I'd like to highlight is there's a large area, parking area here behind the existing office building that's here. So currently, all the stormwater, all the runoff flows off the site to the rear wetland area. All of this water on this paved area here actually flows in this direction. There's a large erosion problem being taken place because there's no control of that runoff from that parking lot. In this area, again, there's some strange buildings and I guess containers that are still there that are just, I guess he was storing antique stuff in it. And there's another container over here. So what we did, obviously, as Nancy was describing, is that we basically going to tear down that existing building and we're going to put this proposed addition on, restore the existing house, and build the 7 units. Part of the project will include, let me get the right rendering, a large part of the project actually. This view here is looking at the back of the units from this direction. What we're going to do is basically transform this whole area into a wet meadow, a higher quality wetland with a number of different landscape features that will coincide with the stormwater regulations. One of the things that the stormwater regulations ask you to do is the very first thing they ask you to do is, has the engineer considered low impact design techniques such as rain gardens, open meadows, things like that for water quality treatment. It's the first one they ask for is because they recognize engineers have the brightest bulbs in the block, so they try to emphasize that one. And that's what we're going to be using, that technique, in restoring this entire area here, in improving the stormwater runoff. Part of that improvement will be to correct this problem here that is causing some erosion in this corner over here. We're obviously going to have to bring in a new water line. We're bringing in a water line with a hydrant down here. And we are going to have a mechanical room, which was shown here, a sprinkler system for these units. And as Nancy stated, each of the units are going to have 2 parking spaces, one exterior and one interior with the garage. And we provided 5 guest parking spaces in this area here. For the parking for the new addition and the existing building, we have parking here and here. We are required basically to have 22, but we're provided 25. 2 of them have to be handicap accessible and 1 has to be van accessible. So our 2 handicap and van accessible spaces are right up front here. Now, what I did about a couple months ago is I went to the Georgetown Fire Department and I measured their largest fire truck wheelbase width, so I could put that into what we call auto turn, do turning movements to make sure that that truck can get in and maneuver down into this area here for fire access. That's why you see kind of a large sweeping curve there as to allow the truck to get in. You can go this way, it can go this way, and then can back out and drive out forward. All the other utilities are going to be provided as well. We're going to bring gas in. Well, obviously, we're going to have telephone, electric, and cable. The 2 septic systems are going to be separated by the front. It's going to have a septic system up front, and the resident units are going to have a septic system in this area here. Each unit will have its own separate septic tank, being Title V and the Board of Health regulations from the bylaw. It'll go to a pump chamber here, and it'll be pressure dosed as is required by Title V and regulations. One of the the big issues with probably the project in terms of engineering is the improvement that we're going to make with the stormwater runoff, the quality of it, how we manage it, and making this area out here that's not in the best shape, turning it into something that you can look at and kind of say, gee, that looks nice. That's what our goal is. So on the circulation, we have 2 exits on this side with 1 entrance. That allows cars to have a better decision to turn left or right. We also have a single lane out here, which is more intended just to separate the residential units so that they're not going through here, that they can come out, go out with their own separate entrance. The line of sight, as far as visibility to make the turns left and right on that roadway, are very, very good. So we don't have any issues with cars being able to see traffic in either direction on any of the exits that we're proposing.
Photos again?
We'll obviously be doing some improvements around the front to improve the landscaping, trees and so forth, that we'll get into more detail when we go into the site plan review. So I think that's kind of our overview. That's a lot. If you have any questions,
So that I cover the requirements for the special permits that we've asked for. I just want to highlight those. Those are in the application. But now that you've seen the proposal, based on what we've provided, based on the cleanup of the site, the restoration of the historic building, the proposed structures, the proposed uses here, we certainly feel are desirable for the public convenience and welfare. The utilities and such have been designed such that they will not overload any public water or municipal water system, so as to unduly subject any area to hazards of affecting health, safety, or general welfare. They will not impair the integrity or character of the district or the adjoining districts, and I think, as you found from the Economic Development Committee as well as the Historic Commission recommendations, and I think what you'll see from the Planning Board as well, is that this is going to be a benefit to that area, and it certainly will not be a detriment to the character of the neighborhood. We do have the recommendations. Do you want those read into the record, or do you not need those read into the record?
I suggest we read those into the record.
Yeah, I think
Do the exhibits too.
I can read them into the record if you wish.
Exhibits here. You think we do it? Yeah, we have. You're talking about the letter from Historic Commission as well as the Economic Development Committee.
Yes.
Is that right? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine, please. Wrong one.
I know.
You want to do that one? I'll do this one.
Sure.
All right. This letter is, excuse me.
Just to save time.
All right. That won't confuse anybody. From the Georgetown Historic Commission, dated August 8th, 2018, to then Chairman Jeff Moore, Zoning Board of Appeals. I am writing on behalf of the Georgetown Historic Commission to express our full support for the proposed commercial and residential project at 51 West Main Street, known commonly as Settlers Property, as it has presented. The project owner, Mr. Colantoni, had met with the GHC a year ago to share his intent on the proposed project and learn our reaction if a demolition permit was requested, as the buildings qualify as historic properties. Mr. Colantoni was very clear. He understood the cultural and historic significance of the property and asked if he were to preserve and restore the main houses as he close to its original splendor as possible and develop residential housing in the rear. Would the Historic Commission be satisfied if he were to demolish the remaining historic structures on the property? From this meeting last year, the Commission stated that we would be open to the concept of this project. Throughout the development of this proposed project, Mr. Colantoni stayed in regular contact with the Commission to update us on progress. The Commission held a public meeting on August 7th, 2018 to have Mr. Colantoni present his designs for this proposed project. During this process, we have found Mr. Colantoni to be very straightforward in his project presentations, responsive to our questions, and inclusive in his outreach. The process started with the initial concepts and has evolved to a point where we have been presented with virtual models / designs of the proposed building project and the landscaping. The GHC is satisfied with the design, preservation, and restoration of the main home. We are comfortable with the demolition of all remaining structures on the property. Specifically, we like the standard of design and construction proposed. We feel it will set a high bar for future projects in the village center, which will only improve our evolving community. We are also in full support to bring the village center back to its historical glory with more residential properties, which will bring more pedestrians and foot traffic feeding into the retail and restaurant establishments in the area. We ardently support the proposed projects for many reasons. This proposed project preserves a significant historical structure, and new construction of townhouses fits with the downtown neighborhood. It will be a complement to the mixed-use, diverse character of Georgetown. It will be a welcome preservation and a new addition of townhouses, replacing current aging structures and restoring the wetlands conservation area. The design of these townhouses buildings with green meadow and lawn is definitely preferable over a single massive commercial building, which may fit within current zoning regulations. It can't be overstated that the Georgetown Village Center desperately needs housing. Newer homes in Georgetown are out of reach for many families, and we believe new townhomes may allow aging couples in expensive homes to maintain and operate to find more affordable and suitable housing as their needs change. Thank you for including our support in your considerations, and anticipate your agreement with this is going to be a positive addition to our Village Center neighborhood. Please share with your board commission members. Sincerely, Philip Trapani, Chairman, Georgetown Historical Commission.
Okay, a letter from the Economic Development Committee dated December 11th, 2018, to then Chairman Jeffrey Moore of the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding Settlers Village Retail Townhouse Development. Dear Chairman Moore, please accept this correspondence as the Economic Development Committee's favorable recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals relative to the proposed retail 7-unit townhouse project located at the former Settlers Antique Village property of 51 West Main Street, map 11, lot 32. That's the right? That's right. In addition to the above, and for the purposes of favorably recommending this mixed-use development to the ZBA, the EDC recognizes that this project, as proposed, will help increase the number of market rate and affordable housing units in Georgetown, and in particular, Georgetown's immediate downtown area. A very important and long-standing goal for our community is to preserve and protect historically significant dwellings and commercial buildings, especially within the downtown area of Georgetown. In this regard, the proposed substantial rehabilitation and reuse of the former Settlers Antique Village property into the subject retail townhouse development represents an important example for further attaining said goal. In conclusion, if CBA members have any questions, concerns, or would like additional information in regard to this recommendation, please feel free to contact the Economic Development Committee. Sincerely, John Cashel, Town Planner, CC, Selectman Steve Sadler, EDC Chairman.
Thanks, Jeff.
I just noted on that letter, if
There is no affordable component. They're all market rate.
John had cut and
Oh, yeah.
paste. It happened at the planning board meeting that night, remember?
That's right.
So it says
okay.
34 East Main, which is Olson's 40B. And then just, that's why I put typo.
Good catch. Thanks.
Gina.
The only, a couple other things I'd like to add is on the plan set, the elevation drawings of the townhouse building. It says the height is 40 feet. The height is actually 35 feet. This building will meet all of the requirements for setback and building density and building height as required under the zoning bylaw. And finally, John has reached out to the neighbors, and he did go around and meet with as many as he could. And I do have a letter of support that has been signed by 8 different abutters in the area that I'd like to present those letters just so that you have them for the file. So we've provided you with a lot of information on this project. We think it's, again, I started off saying it was an exciting project, and I still think it is. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I need to take care of a bit of housekeeping and read these records into, or read these exhibits rather into the record. Patty, do we need to read the, that letter into the record as well?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
We can do that. We can kind of call, let's just call this the set. Are these all in favor, Nancy?
I'm sorry?
these
Yes.
all in
Yeah, it's
support?
yes.
And there are
correct.
8?
There are 8 of them, yes.
It'll be 12, right? This will be Exhibit 12.
So we'll do that as number exhibit 12, and I'll put set of. Are they all on the abutters list, or are they just neighbors?
I believe they're all on the abutters list. I did not double check that though, Patty.
Okay, I can do that. Just put residents.
Yeah.
So I just put exhibit 12, set of 8 resident letters in support,
Okay.
and you can read the top one. Yeah.
We, blank, Georgetown, Mass, are in favor of the proposal in front of the ZBA for 51 West Main Street, Georgetown, Mass. It is nice that the existing front building will stay and be brought back to life. An addition put on the rear of the building, going parallel to the street, matching the original style, should be a nice addition to the downtown area as well. Having the entire lot cleaned up with 7 townhouse-style residential units in the back of the lot should be a beautiful addition to the neighborhood. A mixed use of this lot is much better than a large commercial building that could be done there. We hope that the ZBA, any town board or committee votes in favor of this project. This plan for 51 West Main Street will be an asset to the neighborhood and the town of Georgetown. Respectfully, and then signed by the 8 people. Or 8 addresses, I should say.
Okay. Exhibits going into the record for 51 West Main Street. Site plans exhibit numbers 1 and 2. After we add every one of them. Line items. Exhibit 1, C1, existing conditions dated 12/17/18 by Donahoe Survey. Date stamped by Thad Berry, civil engineer. Exhibit 2, C2, proposed conditions dated 12/17/18 by Donahoe Survey. Stamped by Thad Berry, civil engineer. Architectural plans, all drawn by Duggar Development, dated 11/1/2018. Exhibit 3, A1, existing building first floor plan. Exhibit 4, A2, existing building second floor plan. Exhibit 5, A3, existing building third floor plan. Exhibit 6, A4, existing building in addition, South Main Street elevation. Exhibit 7, A5, side elevation, east elevation. Exhibit 8, A1, shows all first floor plans. Exhibit 9, A1, townhouses second floor plans. Exhibit 10, A1 to 3, townhouses third floor plans. Exhibit 11, A1, 4, townhouses elevations. And Exhibit 12, this is the set of 8 resident letters in support of the project. And at this time, I'm sure members of the board have a few questions, and then we'll get to members of the audience. Open it up to members of the board who have questions for the applicant or their counsel or their experts that they brought along.
Mr. Chairman, I have a sort of a general question about the use. You talked about an addition on the existing building. The rear of the existing is going to be raised and then rebuilt with a new addition. Can you talk a little bit about that use? I'm looking at the plans. It looks like maybe a couple of small commercial spaces on the first floor and same thing on the second floor. Maybe you
Yeah.
touch on that a little bit so we understand.
Right, it will be used as permitted in the district book. We're thinking probably some retail space, maybe a small restaurant. I think you see on the site plan we have a parking calculation based on a restaurant use, as well as retail use. Certainly, we would anticipate maybe some small offices on the second floor.
Okay, so it looks like, based on the schematic, it looks like maybe a couple of small commercial spaces
Yep.
in the first floor. I suppose that could be combined to make into a restaurant or something.
Right.
Maybe that could be combined. Same thing. And are there 3 floors or just 2? Looks like there's a third floor plan, so 3 levels of office/commercial.
Matches the existing building 3 floors.
Right, the existing building is 3 now.
Right. So there'd be 3 levels of various commercial space. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
Please, Sharon. Thanks.
I'm wondering, so on the far side where that one-way driveway is,
Yes.
how close is that to the next residential home? I'm just having a sense of scale, trouble with scale.
The driveway is, it's got like a 5-foot grass strip, and the house is right over here.
Okay.
And the driveway comes in.
Their driveway abuts that
Yeah.
driveway.
And that's going to be an exit only. No-
Primarily,
Correct.
presumably for the residents. And is that required by the fire department, or was that added to the plan to?
It's not
help the
required by
residents?
it's not required for the fire department, it was just something that we put in to separate the traffic flows.
Right.
It
Okay.
is an existing driveway, an existing cut
Oh, it
into
is?
97, yes.
Right.
But in fairness, the settlers didn't use it.
Didn't use it.
You know, it's grassed over, grown over.
Okay.
He would occasionally bring a truck in there, but it is you could drive a vehicle from 97 down the side and come down the back.
And there's no natural screening today, right? Between it and
There are some existing trees along the side that are on our property. There are a couple that are on.
There's none, actually.
That's it, you know, we'll be taking those back.
What you don't see as part of this package, because it's a site plan package, would have a full landscaping
Got
plan.
it. Okay.
So on the trees that Thad was talking about, as the neighbors mentioned, they're sort of in the back of the building. There is really no screening now along the side.
Okay.
In talking to the neighbors next door, you know, they had mentioned about maybe a fence that could go along that whole thing, and we would have no problem with that.
And then may I ask an additional? Is that
Yeah, go
okay?
ahead.
So in terms of, I don't know if this is appropriate now, but in terms of if there were a restaurant there, where exactly within the footprint of the, I guess what I'm thinking of is it going to be close to the residential home, or is there, maybe you can't anticipate that yet?
Well, John can tell you where he's
So
staying.
this is the existing building that we're restoring.
Right.
Usage-wise, you know, it's hard to tell any usage now until we know what gets approved.
Sure.
But, you know, antique, vintage, whatever, office space, second, third floor. The new addition piece, let's leave this up there. for 1 second. The new existing piece, which you see here, is this here, matching the architectural look of the entire building. So if there was going to be a restaurant, it'd be a small one, a 28 to 30 seat, you know, it could be a coffee shop, a cafe, or something like that. And that would probably be in this area here, because it would be the new construction build, even though it matches the antique look and the era. That's probably what it would be.
So it would be
Yeah.
here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
On this side of, where's the residence is on that side?
Yes.
Okay, that's all. I wanted
Just to
to
help
know.
you out.
Yep.
There is no residence in the front building.
No, I'm thinking of the abutter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm trying to understand what uses would be close to where the
This is our
home is.
building.
Yes.
That's the abutter.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that you can see the
And
separate.
the restaurant would more likely be on the side of the other commercial side. That's really all I was trying to get at.
Okay.
It sounds like, I understand you can't predict that necessarily in the
Sharon.
room, but
This plan is in your package.
I understand. I just didn't understand where they were thinking the restaurant would go.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand use
I was just
relative to
just so you
homes.
can see the distance between existing
Oh,
and
I see. Yeah. That was mostly about the driveway that I was trying to
Okay.
understand.
Can I have those letters?
Can
The
you-
letters?
The letters,
Yeah,
Brad?
they're right there.
Did you check all the butters?
Yeah, there's three
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know all the people. That's why I
know
was
the
called
names.
resident instead of a butters.
If I can ask two questions. The first one is relative to, and I know you have to probably go back to conservation to get all that squared away, or have you already done that?
We must go to conservation,
Okay.
definitely.
So relative to the bedroom count, because you have 2 3-bedrooms and all the additional units have a quote-unquote bonus room. Is there any potential of those becoming 3 bedrooms, or are you? I would assume he's bound by the current plan to the 2 bedrooms, correct?
The answer, David, is absolutely not. They're 2-bedroom units and 2 3-bedroom units. That's how the septic is done out. That it is what it is.
Okay.
And they can go with the deed restrictions on it.
That's what I thought. I just want to make sure, because I know a lot of that's going to depend on
Yeah.
what conservation deems
Yeah.
appropriate based on your perks and all that.
Right.
The second question is...
Can I add to that question just because
Yes.
it's pertinent? Because if you look at the drawing, they're all, even though it says bedroom in one and it says bonus room in the second, they all have a bathroom and a walk-in closet. So
That's why I asked the question. 'cause
Yeah. So how are these different? How is the bonus room with the walk-in closet different than the bedroom?
Well, it's great to have entertainment space with a bathroom, especially with how the back is going to be restored and everything and overlooking that. We're trying to go with that 2,000 square foot living space in each unit with the single car garage, trying to get certain price points. When people look at a project like this, everyone thinks it's a grand slam when you do 7 residential units. But the restoration of the front building and the demolition of what's there and the cleanup of the wetlands and everything, the 7 residential units at that price point of 2,000 square feet is what is able to restore the front.
Oh, I'm just asking because if you add a closet, it's a bedroom.
It's a bedroom.
That's going to be the building inspector's determination when construction drawings are submitted, and he may say, no closet, if that's a bonus room, and that often
and that's
does
sort
happen.
of that's my point.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's
Because-
how it's controlled together with deed restrictions. But that's, I've seen that frequently. You have to take a closet out.
I mean, and you can't tell someone how, if they buy this unit, you can't tell them how they're going to use it. They can add a closet or they can add a curtain rod or whatever, but that's why I was asking.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
That's-
any couple with 2 kids could easily move in and use that as a bedroom, and now you've bypassed the septic restrictions by using something that's built.
Septic's by bedroom, not number of
Correct,
people that
but what
live
I'm
there.
saying is if you have 2 bedrooms and a bonus room, and then you start using the third as a bedroom with a toilet and a closet in it, now you're using a 2 as a 3. To your point, if it has a closet, it's a bedroom. And you can't tell people how to use that room.
Right,
So-
but septic is based on bedrooms, not.
I understand.
I'm saying you can circumvent that by.
You can circumvent it. And,
Yeah,
and
you
now
get rid
you're-
of the closet and then your
Correct.
problem.
I'm sure
That can be done, but that wouldn't, there are ways to deal with that, and that's when it comes down to the construction drawings. And as I said, I have certainly had building inspectors say, take out that closet,
Yeah.
or build a half wall. There's different ways to deal with it to satisfy that concern, because that's a legitimate concern, and together with the deed restriction.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
And also Deb Rogers, the Board of Health, when they do, for example, when we do accessory apartments, they count maximum number of rooms, maximum number of bedrooms for that septic tank and leach field or septic system, whatever you have a different one. But she will count that, but as far as what they use it for.
Yeah, but whoever moves in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, you had a second question too.
Sorry.
Yes. These will not have an elevator or some means of second floor access. I appreciate Phil's letter, but I just want to be clear that this isn't a 55 or no targeted for, he was talking about aging adults, downsizing and,
It's not age restricted.
okay.
And I'd like to respond to that
Yeah,
because
no, absolutely.
if you had asked that question 2 years ago, I might have given you a different answer. But one of my good friends and partners in many projects we do, Daryl Sanders, right here. Appreciate him coming. We have 2 projects going on in Danvers right now, 3 projects actually. And 2 of the projects, one house was built in 1860 and the other one was built in 1843. We're restoring the houses and doing townhouses with them. And we have no marketing out there yet. We're still finishing the projects. But we have 2 under agreement, and we would never have guessed in a million years who they're under agreement with. And they're both a single woman and are about 60 years old, single gentleman, the other unit's under agreement, who's almost 60 years old. And they have more stairs in these townhouses that we're building than what these will. So it's kind of funny, and other people that are looking at our townhouses, it's almost like the stairs. I know this sounds really funny, but it's almost like a built-in exercise, and they want it. They actually want it. It's crazy, and we never would have predicted it at all because we thought. I'm with you.
You can get a chair, that goes right on the stairs, yeah.
So if you asked me 2 years ago, I would have said the 55 and plus was not even a buying market for us on these, but it's not the case at
No,
all.
I want to make clear because,
Not
I
age
listened to it and I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. I
Right.
listened to the planning board meeting and I try to pay attention and I don't pretend to be the smartest guy in the room at any point, but it's my job to make sure I pay attention at least a little. So, I think, you know, I drive by there. I mean, these pictures are not ideal situation, so I'm obviously all the time in favor of cleaning something up, but I'm intrigued to hear what the rest of the room has to say, since we have quite a bit of people here. So
Before we go there, just want to make sure any other additional board members, Paul?
Yeah.
Jeff?
No.
Okay. I'd like to open it up. We have a sizable group here, and I'll just sort of go around. If you want to raise your hand, sir, do you want to come up? Do you mind just stepping up, saying your name? Your address can come right up to the podium, and if you would kindly just address the questions to myself if you have any questions, or if you have a written statement. More than welcome.
I do have a written statement.
Okay.
Sure, I could give that to you.
And did you sign in also?
I did.
Okay, great.
I follow all the rules. Good evening. My name is Stu Krupnick, and my wife Tricia and I live at 55 West Main Street, which is right next door. The abutters, we have the driveway. We're the Gold House. Right to the left as you're facing Settlers property. We moved to Georgetown almost 4 years ago to the day when we found our dream house. We love older homes and have made it our mission to invest what we can to maintain the charm and integrity befitting a highly visible home in the downtown area. We pledge to keep it a residence and not sell to developers. Not long after we moved in, we were encouraged by the stories of the home as told by neighbors and newspapers of the fight by the city and its residents to do the right thing with respect to development on our property. Plans to build 15 condos on the property in the 1970s was fought and rejected by the, was fought and rejected, and the plan to build a Dunkin' Donuts here in 1994 was also challenged by residents and ultimately rejected by the city. The primary reasons were increased traffic and safety. What is different now, 25 years later? Tricia and I are definitely pro-business and believe that we need to increase the tax base in town. More businesses and more residential, when done right, in a methodical and measured way, is a good thing for Georgetown and its residents. So we do believe that. Now, Mr. Contoni is proposing to change the zoning, and the current zoning was put into place for a reason, and I'm not sure what reason the ZBA would have to change the zoning after all of these years. We've seen the plans. We did come by our place this weekend, and in our opinion, they're quite excessive. 7 townhouses, which equates to approximately 19-20 people. I think I heard 3 3-bedrooms and 5 2-bedrooms, so 19 to 20 additional residents or possibly more. And 14 cars, plus the 3 to 4 commercial units, which means dozens more people in cars, are being proposed to replace just 1 commercial business on the property. We all know how much of an issue traffic is on Main Street. Tricia and I cannot take a left out of our driveway in the morning. We actually have to turn right and go around the block. Adding dozens of cars, entering and leaving to the mix will only exacerbate a situation that is already at its breaking point. Also, every summer there is a water ban in town, which means our water resources are limited. That must be what that means. Adding so many people to one property would have to put a strain on the water system, not to mention water pressure, drainage, septic, and natural gas. Additionally, you should have the same concerns about pedestrian safety and an increase in trash as the city did 25 years ago with the proposed Dunkin' Donuts. The city did not approve Dunkin' Donuts, and we cannot imagine how or why it would approve a plan that is arguably much more excessive. Please do not approve this rezoning and urge Mr. Contoni to scale back the project to a more modest one, such as utilizing existing front structure for a 4-unit condo or a 1 or 2 unit commercial building. Please, ZBA, do the right thing like it has consistently done in the past.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Just one comment, and my colleagues can correct me if I'm wrong. The issues And the relief that's asked by the applicant is not to rezone that area, and the zoning board isn't rezoning anything. We're here to grant special permits and potentially a variance. So we're not changing any zoning of the existing location.
To that point, if I may.
Sure.
Changing the front building to 4 condo units would certainly be changing the current use, zoning use, correct?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yeah.
Mixed use was passed at town meeting this past. So that's why it's, and it's, mixed use falls under planning, so when it goes to site plan review, that's the mixed
If I
use.
can just clarify, we are not proposing to change the zoning, we're not asking for a change of zoning. The uses that are proposed here are all permitted uses. They require, in the case, one case, a special permit, but that is a permitted use. The density meets all of the density requirements. The number of units here requires 70,000 square feet. We have the required area. It meets all of the setback requirements. So we are not asking for special relief or changing of zoning or anything like that. We are asking for the permit specifically under the terms of the bylaw.
So whether it's rezoning, re-permitting, what have you, then I'm not the expert there, but that's, obviously that's not the point that I'm trying to make. And
No, point
I did want to
taken.
add one more thing if I may. So our property is this one here. And I'm not sure, I mean, I assume these drawings are accurate, but this driveway is right on the property line. I mean, it's right on the property line. I can't imagine how you would have cars going by here all the time.
So on your property, what is there a fence there, or is it just?
Right now, we have a fence that goes right to here.
Okay.
And so I'm sure it would get taken out at some point by somebody hitting it, but where it goes right up to the property line.
Just in the front of your house, correct? Or is it?
Fence? Yes,
Yeah.
it goes across the front.
Not along the side of that property.
Right, nothing, it doesn't turn in.
Okay.
And your house is awesome. I've been in it.
Thank you. We love it.
It's a good house.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah.
Let him go.
Okay.
Hi,
Did you
Peter
sign in, sir?
Angelopoulos. Peter Angelopoulos.
Did you sign in, sir?
I did.
Okay, thank
I live
you.
at 11 Prospect Street on the side. Earlier,
Sorry, what's your last name again?
Angelopoulos.
Okay.
Give me that spell.
Yeah.
Angelopoulos. Earlier, there was a letter that was given out in support of 8 abutters. There's only 7 on the picture, and us 7 are here. Was wondering if you could read off those addresses. Obviously, there were no names to it.
We did mention a few minutes ago that 3 of them were not on the abutters list. So if there were 8, there are now 5.
But those 5 are here.
We still understand
Public record. We'll read them out.
We can read it in. I was just making sure you heard
Thank
that.
you. I did.
It's hard to hear in here sometimes.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's Eliza Gusty, 43 Prospect
Why don't
Street.
you just read the addresses? Or do you want the names too?
No, the address is
The
probably
address is
good.
43 Prospect, 47 Prospect, 38 West Main, 68 West Main, 2 Pond Street, 5A School Street, 5 Middle Street, and 23 Library Street.
Patty, 47 is not on this list that you provided us. 47 Prospect, just so you know.
So Jeff has
Yeah,
it.
and just for clarification, the abutters list for the zoning board includes anyone within
300.
300 feet of the property, not an immediate abutting.
Yeah, direct
So you may think that if you're touching the property, you're in a butter, there are a lot more abutters than that. The abutters list is actually quite long. Dave has a list of it here. It's here, just for clarification.
There are probably
I believe there were 46.
40 some odd names on the list.
It was a while.
And that's public record also,
Is that-
if you wanted to
40
see
names
it.
are in agreement?
No. There are 40, by law, we have to post an ad and then we have to mail something out to the people within that area.
300.
300-foot radius.
So within that 300-foot radius, there are 40 some odd names on this. So they were notified of this. You folks are here. Some folks decided to write a letter, and then some 3 additional people not on this list wrote letters that are probably, based on my knowledge of the town and where they're located, they're not far off from that 300, but they're not within the 300. That's my point was earlier. 3 people are not on our 300-foot list that were in favor of this. So that's, but yes.
Ma'am, did you have a comment?
I do have a...
Why don't you come up and did you sign in yet?
I did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody did a good job signing in.
Yeah.
I did. Round of applause to you guys.
Kept going like this.
My name is Janice Thompson, and I'm at 23 Prospect Street. I am not listed as an abutter here, but I certainly, I'm within that 300. My backyard is very low. It's almost at the water table. My concern is runoff, and am I going to go underwater in the spring? I mean, we've had, the last couple of years, we've had quite a bit of rain, and it's a mess back there because Mr. Settler filled in so much of the back that it's pushing it on our property.
Can you,
So my question is-
what your hand is, to point out approximately where your property is on what you have in your hand? Just so I
Take that down.
Like, where are you?
No, we're here.
So this is
The Sheehan's, I'm absolutely
over here.
over in here.
over here. You go. Okay. Thank you.
Can I
That's my
respond?
concern.
Wasn't sure if she's finished yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my concern is the water runoff with all of the parking, you know, and my other question is, with the main house and putting in businesses, how many businesses are they talking? And how many cars is that gonna, I mean, I know that there's so many cars that's allowed, that they're planning on. But if you have a restaurant, I know right now the Eagle Building, they're fighting with people parking in the Eagle Building, people going to the spot. In the Eagle Building, there's several empty units. So I really don't like the looks of the 7 units. That scares me. When you come right down to it, it's like, wow. It is gonna change things, and from the front, it's gonna look better. But from the back, I'm not so sure. And I'm looking at the back.
Appreciate it. I'm going to give applicants counsel an opportunity to respond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With regard to the runoff and traffic and those sorts of questions, but specifically runoff, this project will have to go through site plan approval with the Georgetown Planning Board. A stormwater management report is part of what's generated for that, that site plan package. Georgetown hires, that the applicant pays for, a peer review consultant, an engineer outside of the town who reviews and advises the planning board on stormwater management issues to be sure that exactly what this abutter is concerned about won't happen, which is an increase in runoff. That violates the stormwater management regulations for the state, and that process is done with the planning board.
Excuse me, could I have that in writing, that it won't affect me?
It's the state law, actually.
Ma'am, you have to address questions to the board. Whatever decision the board ultimately renders will be in a writing filed as a matter of public record.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else from the audience like to speak? Yes, ma'am. You want to come up to the podium?
Hi, Deb Lamorow, 42 West Main. I'm directly across the street from the property.
Did you sign in?
Yes, I did.
All right. I'm not going to even ask. Everyone signed in.
You guys are on a roll.
Lamorow, L-A-M.
Batting 1,000.
O-U-R, EAUX.
Can you guys come back to all our meetings so we can get?
42 West Main.
I got it.
My only question and concern is the wetlands, the 100-foot buffer. It seems that from what I can see on the plans, the 100-foot mark is in the side of that red zone. What are we planning on doing about that? Are they going to get an easement for it, or are they going to be? I don't understand where you're going from that end of it.
So, that's all handled by conservation, and they have to submit to the state with a notice of intent on how they're gonna fix that or remedy that, or sometimes they can do a little extra here when they take away a little bit from here. So that will be in your notice of intent.
Yes, and we're not working at all within the actual wetland. We are proposing work within the buffer zone, but we are not altering any wetland for this
but you're
project.
inside the 100-foot
Correct, which
buffer.
means we have to file with the Conservation Commission, and that is a whole hearing process in and of itself.
And that would be out of the purview of this board.
Yeah, we're
that's still
strictly
part
on
of
a
the
use
Concom
basis.
Correct.
Yeah, we're on a use basis.
Yeah, oh,
All that
okay.
other stuff, traffic, lighting,
Gotcha.
water runoff,
And-
is all going to be
But
handled by
yeah, it'll be very well vetted.
planning board and or conservation.
And my only other concern is the traffic coming in and out of, because it takes me 15 minutes to back out of my driveway every morning. I have to back out. I don't ever turn around. I have to back out or block traffic to back in so that I can pull out, because I'm on that southbound side of 97, which is really tough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the audience? Yes, ma'am?
Bonnie Ashby, and I've lived in Georgetown for 52 years.
What's your address?
24 North Street.
Did you sign in?
Yes, I did.
I don't think we have to ask anymore.
I was just wondering, as she was wondering, what exactly... My house is like a sanctuary for animals. And I'm just wondering, is this going to affect the wetlands that much? Is it going to be, are we still going to have the ability to have, animals and things like that in this area here? And it's right next door to, I'm just a little concerned about the wetlands.
I appreciate the question. It's a thoughtful question, but as Mr. Twist indicated, that'll be something within the purview of the conservation, and the zoning board won't be addressing things about wildlife or
they won't.
specifically. Am I right?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean,
there will be considerations there, but
consider it. But as far as the wetlands impact itself, I mean, you have the water runoff, which is going to be, frankly, engineered now to improve some of that situation. So I don't want to get into too much off track, but you have a project that's going in now that can perhaps, I think, improve a lot of the flooding issues, because you're going to be retaining a lot of that water, which is now, I think as somebody pointed out, it's running straight back into that pond and flooding some of that. They're going to have to be required to retain it now on an engineered basis to meet certain standards. So, how the wildlife in that area may be impacted, I don't think we're in a position to judge. But
I do think that they're going to be putting in additional plantings, if that's my understanding with the wet meadow. They're adding wetland plants. That's actually probably going to help a little bit with like birds and other little critters like that.
And when they go to conservation, they'll have the same abutters list, and then when they go to planning, they'll have the same abutters list, so the same people will be notified for all those things.
So go to those meetings too.
Okay.
Okay, so your voice will be heard.
appreciate it.
Yeah, depending on your concern, you can pick your meeting.
Just to follow up on that, I'm Jim Ashby, 24 North Street. I'm a little confused. So they still have to go before the Conservation Commission to get all this approved? None of this is part of what we're doing tonight?
This is use.
Separate?
They need approval from essentially all three boards, essentially.
Okay, but
Zoning
that's a-
board for the use.
That's a whole separate process.
Yes, a whole nother application for conservation, where they can dictate what can and can't be done. And then the planning board would have to have a full purview of site plan approval, which involves more the traffic, lighting, landscape, yeah, fencing, all.
Hi, I'm Lisa Scala. I actually live at 5 Middle Street, but I'm also part owner of 28 West Main Street on the front. From my perspective, to have more retail downtown would be an amazing thing, and that the facade of this is going to be beautiful and just enhance that downtown. To have more walking traffic downtown instead of driving, I think would enhance the downtown greatly. I wish we could do it through the whole downtown and make it, because I just envision this quaint, gorgeous downtown as our town has grown. And I believe that it would just enhance people moving in. First, the schools is what they look for, and second is the cute little downtown. And we're trying to make it the best we can. And I just think the plans look gorgeous. And I just think that if we just keep kind of having this, plus that it's, so I have a connection to this. This is where my parents started their business. They rented from the settlers, then bought the building that I'm in. And to see this building brought back to life is just something very personal to me. And then that they're also helping the wetlands, because I'll say it, there's trash back there that is horrific. I mean, the stuff that's probably been going in there for years scares me. And I am very concerned, and I want this town to improve. I want my kids to have my business after I have it. And I just really, really think this is a good idea and would improve our downtown. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate the comment. Thank you so much.
How you doing?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Great. Tim Sheehan, 13 Prospect Street.
Also,
We own the water. So the thing that I would say is that
You're the guy.
actually there's a bunch of us. But having all this added here is going to add nothing to the wetlands at all. It's going to destroy the wetlands. First off, okay, you're going to definitely disrupt everything that's down there. Yes, Sedler's done a horrible job over the 20 years, and we've watched him. Okay, and people in town have also watched it, and they've let him do it, and that's okay. Okay. But at this point, yes, cleaning it up would be awesome, because there's definitely a lot that he's filled in and a lot of things he's buried. And of course, he's got piles of things down there, which is all good. But ultimately, I'd say this is a very extreme project. I think it's definitely something that could be scaled back. I think it would be great if we could actually move these, or at least one or two of these units up here on top of the hill, where we could actually, you know, take away from the impact from the water itself, because putting them all down here definitely impacts the water as well as the wetlands. And obviously we're within the, you know, the zone of the water itself. And again, this is the first time I've seen the project, so there's probably a lot of details that I'm not aware of. So, but ultimately, I think your parking is inadequate, you know, for the size, for sure. I think your runoff, and I think you're going to address this in your engineering studies and everything. But not knowing what they are right now, I hope you guys exceed those limits, okay? Not just meet them, exceed them for the people and for the waterway, okay? You know, for the most part, like I said, I think it's a pretty excessive project. I haven't seen anything for the runoff of the pavement, but again, I think you'll hit that in your engineering study. Inadequate parking, the traffic, I think everybody's addressed that. Yeah. I don't think there's anything else to say there. You guys all live here, right? I mean, it's ridiculous right now. So
Maybe we could.
to add more to it, you're adding more problems to it. Does the, you said the police department actually voices their concern also here? Is that true?
Fire department?
Just the fire department?
Fire department was in.
No, they were in
They were in support of it.
Yeah,
The fire
they
department,
voiced their opinion. Yeah.
but no police?
Was there anything in the
No, they
record that
didn't.
indicated?
Right.
I would think they'd be involved, for sure. Because they're the ones who are going to have to handle all the accidents, you know, that are happening.
They received the application.
Yeah, site plan will address that.
Deal with
Right.
parking.
Right. And then the last one I'll bring up, because I know it might not be this board or whatever, and please tell me if it's not. putting 30 people right next to this wetlands is a huge liability for me and my family. Okay? There's got to be some kind of barrier put up all along this wetlands that protects the people as well as us.
I'm sorry.
Just so I understand, how would that create a liability for you? And
some little kid dies in the pond. Some grandkid drowns in the pond. Some older person with Alzheimer's drowns in the pond.
So.
You mean from the property going to the pond, is that the idea?
Yes.
Is that, am I understanding you? So kid wanders off from the condo, townhouse,
into your property.
drowns in the pond on your property.
It's my property.
Is that literally? You weren't joking. That's literally your property.
Yes, right here, right there. That part right there.
I mean, without looking at like a Google map, I don't know how far of a walk that is.
Looks to be about 80 feet. I mean, you're within the 100 foot.
not
We've
a
already
lot.
said that, right? We've already said you're already,
it's a
your
100
units
foot
are already
buffer.
halfway in the zone.
I mean, to his property, not to the buffer.
Well, no, his,
Oh, no,
his
it's to the
property
pond.
is the wetland.
That is the pond, yeah. Yeah.
Does site planning handle
They will do fencing if they
Yeah.
think it's a safety issue.
site planning?
Site plan approved.
I didn't know if it was you guys or not.
Planning.
Yeah.
I know it's not us, I wasn't sure if it was site plan or not, but I think that's definitely a concern that you should bring up to the planning board.
They all told you the landscaping and fences and
Sure.
barriers and lighting and
Yeah.
landscaping.
Yeah, that's the other one. Are there lights along this roadway over here, sir? Are there
I'm
lights?
sure there will be.
There will be.
Sure.
That's going to encroach upon
Oh, the next door neighbor.
roughnecks or something? Not only light pollution, but, space and everything else?
Again, that's
another one, sorry.
Right, that's
Yeah,
planning
sorry.
board and lighting fixtures
Anyways,
will be
my comments,
discussed.
safety, traffic, right? Too big for the area, for sure.
I encourage you to go to
Oh, I'm gonna go.
planning board. It's
No.
a treat.
It's always a good time. That's what I want to spend my life doing. Protecting my investments, right?
Sure.
That's what we all do here, right?
Nope, that's
And it's a public
That's what
forum.
it's all about, exactly.
Yeah, everybody's opinion counts. It's
Yeah.
a public forum.
Yeah. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you. I want to let applicant and through their counsel have an opportunity to respond if you want to.
I think the comments that were just brought up are things that will be dealt with at the site plan level. Generally, on the comments that I've heard, we do need to remember this is a commercial zoning district, and what we're proposing meets what's under the zoning bylaw for this district, and certainly does not exceed the density. We could be proposing a commercial building much closer to the lot lines, all of them, than what we're proposing. With regard to the density, the bylaw states what the density can be, and this project does meet the density for this zoning district. And every project can, in theory, be scaled back. You can always build something smaller, in theory, but you can't build something smaller in practicality when you have to meet the economics and have a project. Nobody wants to go through this whole process and get a project approved that's not financially viable. And part of this project that most projects don't have is an incredible expense in the restoration of that historic building out front. That's the corner piece for the project, and the design of the rest of the project was based on restoring that building, but that comes with a huge price tag. And so everything has to balance out, and this project meets the requirements of the bylaw. It doesn't exceed those requirements, and we could be closer to our lot lines than where we are with this project. So I just throw that out there. This is a commercial district, and we're working with the requirements that the bylaw has.
Anybody else from the audience? I don't think I got to everybody. Would anybody like to come up and address the board additionally that I didn't get?
I have one more question. My question is, on the 7 units, there's one garage, a garage for one car, and then an outside parking, correct?
Yep.
Where do the people have storage? The garage? Which means another car's gonna be out in the parking area?
They have basements.
There's basement space. There floor plans were submitted with the application. There's plenty of storage space.
Hopefully there's closets.
That was 5.
Mr. Chair, if I
There are
could.
basements, though, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, I want to, if I can just take a few minutes and just give a little history here, because, I know some towns and things, contractors come in and they build and they do their project and they leave and they don't care. So I want to thank all the neighbors that come out and take the time, no matter if they agree with us or disagree with us, because it always makes, no matter what you're doing, a much better project. Because sometimes you find out some things that you would never know because you don't live right there. So I grew up in Georgetown when I was 13 years old. Through grammar school and high school and college, I worked at 71 West Main Street, probably about 80 hours a week. And God rest my dad, I lost him to Parkinson's, but he loved Georgetown. And he knew Mr. Scala, and he knew the settlers. And as a kid, we ran a dealer tires. Some people that have been here 50, 60 years might remember. And at the time, we were a wholesale tire distributorship that would deliver tires to places. Then we got into complete car service and all that. And Bob Alderman, who now owns the building, who bought it from us, he used to be a account of ours when he used to work out of his house with his big garage. And we used to deliver tires there and stuff. And then he started renting from us when my father got really sick in 1992, 93, and then bought the building from us in about 2004, 2005. So I'm extremely more familiar with the neighborhood than a lot of the folks realize. And that pond back there, though owned by most of it by the gentleman, only 0.1 of that physical pond water is on our 1.7 acres. But the buffer zone is on there. So I used to go down to that pond. I used to go visit the settlers, and Mr. Scala, I think, opened up his building across the street in '78. So I have a lot of history here, and it's funny how things come full circle. Because when we sold the building in 2004, 2005, obviously I didn't spend as much time here. But my significant other, Rita, was in search 5 years ago of a storefront. She does vintage clothing and goods, et cetera, et cetera. And we must have looked at 50 places, and she said, I got this place I want you to look in Georgetown. And I was like, flabbergasted how things come full circle. And this January starts her 5th year Vintage Vault, which is 2 doors down from the Georgetown Bank to the right. So it's been really neat to get sort of re-familiar with the community again. So we don't want to come in here and do something that we just do and leave and say, see you later. We have roots here. Though one of the partners lives in Stoughton, and that's why you heard the Stoughton address. I live in Ipswich and have since 2009 and grew up on the North Shore. And we want to do a project here where some of the people that have doubts are going to say after the fact, wow, like they did what they said they were going to do, and they listened to us on some of the concerns. When someone says to me that they're worried about someone drowning in that pond, or they're worried about someone getting hurt out there, with no disrespect, they need to really take a close look at what's out there right now. Rita and I have to drive around there on a regular basis at night to kick people out of there, okay? We've had to call the police. It's a much dangerous situation right now on what's going on and what's back there than what would be here. Though in your zoning, this is called an apartment building, these are 7 townhouses that will be owner-occupied, not rented. So now this wetlands and this wildlife that everyone's concerned about, which I respect, is going to be watched more than it ever has been, because on the front side, where it's not all covered with trees, where you can't see it during 6 or 7 months of the year, it's going to be seen and it's going to be watched. It's not going to be filled in. It's not going to be covered with junk, and it's not going to be completely mowed so the wetlands get ruined. So there's no way that I can sit here, I boil, when people say that we're going to make this worse. That really, it upsets me. It brings a tear to my eye, because we're going to make this better. And downtown needs a boost. It's dying, and it shouldn't die, because Georgetown is a great place to live. It's a great place to do business. We love doing business here, and we want to bring something to it. So I hope that we're allowed to do this project. And what's in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals, as my attorney has said many times tonight, meets everything that you're allowed to vote on. And all the details, the drainage, which is going to ultimately be better, the wetlands that are going to be better, the lighting that has to meet certain standards so the night does not get polluted, all that's taken care of by other boards and by engineering. And we do projects like this all the time, and we're scrutinized and we get compliments afterwards. So I hope we get the opportunity to do this because Georgetown will be proud, and it's going to help what Georgetown needs. So I appreciate all the time.
I appreciate that. Patty, just as a housekeeping note, do I have to make a motion to go past 9 or is it 9:30?
10 o'clock.
Oh, 10 o'clock. Oh, wow.
But you can do 9:30. I'm good with that. I'll let you know. I have a timer.
Questions for the board?
When it dings, you gotta leave.
We gotta run for the door.
That's how we almost didn't make it before the alarm went off.
I heard about that. I heard.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to hand that in now, or my written
Oh,
statement.
that's
or-
okay. I got it. I got the gist of it.
Is there anything else from the audience at this point? Anybody like to come up to address the board? Just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. At this time, any additional questions for the applicant by members of the board?
I don't know if it's appropriate, but is there a way to rethink how those 7 are, would that be for us or somebody else? How those 7 are positioned? The townhouses?
Oh, I mean,
That's planned, okay. Okay.
condition, right?
We're looking at use.
At use, okay.
Can we do, no, it was screening and that's all site plan.
You're looking at
But I
properties
think it's
on more
worth
than one.
discussing. I mean, there's been a lot, if I may.
Please,
I mean,
yep.
there's a lot of concerns about the change that may happen out there. And I, for one, completely understand people get nervous when they see
Is this
you know,
mine?
significant change.
Is this yours?
And I don't know if your engineer, we have some photos that are rendered that show a lot of landscaping and so forth. It's not really shown on the plan. Would it be worth a couple minutes just to kind of go over what your plan is for landscaping? We're not really going to here to dictate it, but I think there's a lot in the works that maybe isn't really shown there that might.
Well, I think I want
In fact, it's not all going to be a mowed area out there.
Right.
So we touched on it earlier, but I think it's worth discussing a little bit further.
I think I want to emphasize just a couple of things. You probably can see it when you go there. If you look at the paved area, it's here. This is a building. These are buildings. These are containers. And you look at that pavement, you know, we're going to have a slight increase in pavement. Not a drastic increase. We're going to have a slight increase.
Including roof?
With roof and pavement, we'll have a slight increase in impervious surface.
20% or?
I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll have
There's a
it's
lot
not
of
gonna
roof
be-
there now, and there's a lot of paving there now.
There's a tremendous amount of roof and tremendous amount of pavement. On top of that, there's a large area here that's compacted gravel. And everything out here, it isn't lawn, it's dirt. I mean, it's you know, I don't want to use a dump, but it's not particularly nice. This whole area is like that. On top of that, this parking lot here flows into this wetland area here, untreated, uncontrolled. You can go out there, you'll see the erosion that's going into the wetlands right now, you know, presently. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be improving all of that. And you have to understand that we're required under the regulations of the Stormwater Act that we all have to go by with the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission, that we have to meet all those water quality standards, pre and post peak flow, stormwater infiltration into the soils. And although I'm showing a simple type of a plan here, this dark area here that I'm showing, that's all going to be revegetated. It's all going to become a natural vegetated wildlife type of restoration that combines with stormwater, like I said before, part of low-impact development, which, as I said before, one of the things that Mass DEP and also the federal government wants you to do. So all those things are going to be incorporated into this design.
So if that picture is like, that's like a picture of the meadow that would be created in the back, correct?
That's correct.
And some trees, you know, if you pick that front part up on some of the landscaping there.
Can you talk briefly about the water flow? Again, it's not necessarily what we're going to review here, but all of the impervious pavement that you're creating and the rooftop is all going to be, can you explain how that water is captured and how it's
one of the things that we're going to basically be doing is we need to meet certain types of water quality standards. So we'll be using a series of catch basins, which this present site has absolutely no catch basins, no control. We'll be collecting it, bringing it to an area here for storage, infiltration. Then we'll have it meander a long, tortuous path behind these houses to what we call a rain garden type of natural vegetated channel. They'll slow it down, they'll treat it, it'll infiltrate it, bring it back to another area back here where it'll be detained. All of this water that we're going to be using going through here is all intended to provide the habitat and the conditions for that type of wet meadow to exist. It needs water. We want the water there. But while we're doing it, we're treating the quality. We're detaining it, slowing it down, forcing it to go into the ground, and preventing a pre and post increase in peak rates of runoff. So it's going to be a series of techniques in order to mitigate it.
And Mr. Chair, if I may. Thad, the water that runs off the back of the parking lot that's not ours, we will have to deal with that as well, correct?
We're going to deal with that. We have no choice. We have to pick that up and fix it. So what's not being controlled here, we're going to have to control it. So the control of our project will be this whole area. So everything that's flowing and eroding into this wetland area now, that'll be prevented.
Is that flowing out by the storage shed or trailer, whatever it is?
You
it's all coming out right down that area.
Go out and take a look. It's pretty obvious. It doesn't take a lot to understand that there's a situation that's not particularly good.
That's where your retainage area is going to be.
And if you go walk through the wetland here, if you want to walk it, you'll see silt and dirt and stuff from this runoff going in there.
So if we have a 2-inch rainstorm, 2 inches of water is running from 97 straight to the pond, basically. It's running downhill. It's all downhill. No controls. Right?
Right now, Mr.
Right
Commissioner?
now. Yeah, it's down into there. You're proposing, based on the plan, if I'm reading, I'm not an engineer, so by all means, feel free to stop me, is I count 5 maybe catch basins on that one side. Is that accurate? And that's not approved yet by people that need to approve it. And then how many throughout the parking lot that aren't there now will you be adding?
We'll probably be adding, probably going to be adding catch basins for the main area here.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
And in here.
Yeah.
And all that's going to be, one of the things we're going to do is right now, just if you can understand, if I make a very simple comparison, if I said to you, I'm going to design a roadway system, and I'm going to bring all the cars to the same spot at the same time, you'd look at me and say, you're an idiot. Well, that's the same thing with stormwater runoff. If I bring it all together at one point, I create a problem. This particular project is going to prevent it because that's what happens. It flows all the way down here, uncontrolled to one spot. We're going to break it up, slow it down, detain it, and treat it.
One last question for Mr. Krumzik back there. Along that road, will there be catch basins on the road? Because once you repave it, obviously the water will flow more freely.
You mean the driveway?
The driveway on the other side.
Oh yeah, we'll have catch basins along here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the water won't be running down that road past that last townhouse into wherever it's gonna go.
One of the benefits of this site up front here, as I said before, it's gravel. And we did a test pit just, right here.
Yeah.
Down 9 feet, no seasonal high water table, no water, just pure gravel and sand. So in some of these areas, we'll be actually doing infiltration to get that water into the ground.
Do you want to?
Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I don't have the authority to do that, sorry.
You want me to go first?
I would also encourage you that any runoff that comes off the houses to actually get put into a septic system or something like that, and not just a catch basin, but something that, or at least go to the catch basin. But all the water that's coming off the roofs and everything, because the roof areas that you've got here is equal to, if not exceeding, the amount of pavement you've got already existing on the site.
I can't really tell what the grades are for the footprint of the new buildings. I'm just trying to figure out where your driveway or first floor elevation is compared to what the existing grades are. So, in other words, it looks like it's a nice gradual slope up to the back of the buildings. In order to meet the front grades of the buildings, is that going to get elevated and there's going to be a lot more grade coming up on the back of the buildings? Is there a plan here with the actual grade?
We haven't gone into the details of site grading and all of that. We've done our work basically because we have to have a septic system in there.
Yep.
So that we know generally how we're going to grade this. If you go there right now, you can go down. It just goes like that, right along this.
Right on that little driveway there. Yep.
This will be softened. This will be softened, so there'll be fill up here to bring that up a little bit. So that it'll be not as steep of a grade right here. But all those details will be taking place during the final development of the site plan, the stormwater management, and the septic system.
The reason I bring it up is that this already is, for me, intolerable for downtown Georgetown. All the people on the other side of the pond are going to be looking at that. It's not going to happen for me. Because I do agree that we do need more people in downtown. I do agree with all those things, but this does not fit into what is already in downtown Georgetown. So I should be looking at you guys. It's very difficult for me because I totally understand the importance of this project. And I understand how it has so many benefits. But there can't be one person on the other side looking at this that thinks that this is appropriate. I don't know where this is appropriate, but it's certainly not for me. And my issue is that in addition to already having 35 feet of height, you may be grading up. It seems like you're going to have to grade up to make this all work, to tie into the septic system on the other side and the parking and all that on the front side of the building. I'm not certain about it, but fairly well trained in how grading works. And I think that this is going to be even higher visually. So I think that I would ask you guys to give me more information on what that will be. And the only reason I have any right to say this as a member of this board is, ultimately, do I think this is detrimental to the town of Georgetown, to the citizens of Georgetown? So that's my issue right now.
So that I can understand, we have the front facade, could you lift that one up, of that back building, which you can see here. The design of that has been designed to reflect the antique in the front.
Yes.
Now, that hasn't done all of the engineering, but that's looking like it's going down a bit to me.
Yes, it does, absolutely.
So,
a bit.
A bit.
Because we're still looking at the first floor elevation looks like it's only marginally. Now, granted, just so everyone knows, we really have no idea until grading plan's done.
Correct.
Because that might be not accurate either, because that doesn't really go down much at all.
Right.
So if you're suggesting that parking lot is first floor, then I would suggest that the back of the building is going to be at least 5 feet higher than the existing grades already back there.
Okay, so we don't know the grades yet. So, looking at that design, reflecting the antique in the front, are you okay with that design in the front? Is it the rear design that you don't like?
I think that's totally appropriate for the front, for downtown.
So, looking at the back of the building, it's the look of the back of the building that you don't care for, understanding that this is a commercial district that could have a big commercial building back there that looks like a commercial building and dumpsters and everything else in the back.
All I can say is, do I think this is detrimental to Georgetown? Yes.
But what?
So are there things you can do to make it better?
That's where I'm going.
Maybe.
What would you like? What? Can you
Well, you guys have
express
done.
what you
I'll
don't
tell you
like?
the good parts about it. You've done a nice job of breaking up the different facades so that it looks more like a downtown area, but each building is separate. I think that's nice.
Yep.
I think the 35 feet is a little overkill. I think looking at 3 stories where everything on the other side of the pond is essentially 2-story or 2.5, I think that these are too big. They're too tall. And that's what my concern was, is if this grade comes up 5 feet and we're adding 35 feet to that, you're basically, it's going to make the wetland look like a puddle compared to the magnitude of this building.
We did discuss, and I'm sorry that the planning board didn't meet at their last meeting because their letter, I think, would have been helpful. But if you saw the planning board discussion, much of it concentrated on mass of the building and how can we, when we get to site plan,
yes,
bring the mass down as far as the look. And you know the chair of the planning board is landscape.
He's in my profession.
Right. So he had.
Video I sent you, they did talk about
He
the
had
maps.
lots of very good suggestions about landscaping, both for the front and the back,
Yes.
to break up that facade. So they are very much in tune, and we discuss that when we get to them. But from a zoning standpoint, the height is 35 feet under the bylaw. And
you have me entirely on all that. The
Yeah.
logistics of the project, undeniable. So I'm left with the one last thing. Is this good? Is this to me good? Is there detrimental effect to Georgetown? And that's when the ZBA can attach conditions that might make it more amenable to me or the citizens of Georgetown. Now, that's what makes this so hard, because when these projects are done, I too have to look at them. I have to walk by them, and I do care, and I think you do too. That's all fine. It's just, is there any way to make it slightly better, or a lot better, or is this good enough? I'm not sure. Like, that's just bringing up my concern of this beautiful little vernal pool that's in the backyard of a lot of other people in town. And that is actually why they're here in Georgetown, is for that experience. I'm sure they all understand the economics of getting more people in downtown and walking in. That's wonderful. Getting more people in to walk downtown. It actually it'll be better for the commercial part of downtown with less traffic, because as this one woman said, more people are going to walk downtown. That is exactly what I would love to have happen. It's how can we make this fit a little bit better into what is already there. That's
right.
My concern.
And the concern is that really the backside facade.
Yeah, I think the front, from my perspective, is fantastic. Can't get any better.
Okay, good.
Can I ask you, Paul, is it the roof pitch or roof line, maybe something that could be worked on instead of
that looks like
maybe
a
dormers of some kind?
Pitch to me, based on honestly,
honestly,
it doesn't look like a big steep pitch on the roof. I mean, it looks like these things are.
Well, they're getting headed.
Well, that's almost a flat roof, because it's the bonus room is there, and I'm not. And again, I totally get the 2,000 square feet thing. So I wouldn't want to suggest that needs to go out the window.
Well, remember, we've got a mansard roof in the front building that we're trying to work with too, and trying to reflect that.
Height. It doesn't really matter what the slope of the roof is.
Quite honestly, you're absolutely right. It's the roof pitch. This is almost a flat roof, a shed roof, which is just not appropriate to most of downtown. I'm not saying that there's not a lot of it around, because there is. I'm just not. It's just tricky. Yes, I think that if that can be reworked, and obviously Rob Hoover's brought that up and he's given you suggestions, that's my issue. And I know you can make that wetland more beautiful and work better, and and there's gonna be plenty of wildlife back there. I know you can do all that. It's just how can we make this back? And I'm not an architect, so that's where I leave it. I can't.
Mr. Schilling, through the chair, a couple things. And I'm not an engineer, and I'm not an attorney, and I'm not an architect, so that's why I bring the team. So when we talk about filling in and raising that, that was a concern. So Thad, do I understand correctly that we could never do that in a million years, even if we wanted to, because we can't fill in the wetland area?
The wetland line is here. This back area here will change in grade, but not drastically. Keep in mind that it's not the septic system that's going to be causing this, because we have a pump system. We're pumping out to the septic system.
Well, I just was asking what the grade change was, and you guys aren't sure yet. So
right now, because we haven't done the final details, but right now, if you look at existing grade before the road drops drastically, that's elevation 91. The area where we're putting the units is elevation 83. That'll give you some idea of the elevation drop.
So it's dropping down, not
8 feet.
Raising it.
Repeat that, please.
Yeah,
8 feet.
The elevation, existing elevation of where the road starts, if you go there, starts to drop down. Is elevation 91. The area here where the units are going is elevation 83.
91, 83, okay.
So that's one concern that I just wanted to put out. The other thing is, we'd be open to different ideas on the roofing. Like one idea that came up was to match, and Daryl's gonna hit me in my back when I say this, to match the front roof to the townhouses. We talked about that, John, right?
Oh, yes. I just felt it made it too massive.
Oh, I know.
Extremely costly to go.
Again,
You're talking about the existing building.
It's extremely costly for a slate.
It's slate roof. I mean, it's not practical. People aren't.
I was wondering if there was an opportunity on the rear to do something in the way of dormers or something to sort of break up. I think what Paul's getting at is you have this big monolithic, it's very high. It does look, if you were looking at the front of this and you bring that roof straight up, it looks
to be
much
quite honest
bigger.
with you,
So,
if I may,
Well, sir, do you mind just standing and giving your
yes.
name?
John Duggar, I'm the architect for the project. We haven't concentrated a lot on the back of this because there's so many other site issues going on. And we have a number of boards to go through when we're discussing the aesthetics. I appreciate that you brought that point up. I'm not pleased with it at this point either, so you have an ally on your side.
No,
We just have a lot more work to do, and we're very early in the process.
and we're always at this point, the ZBA is, we happen to be a particularly planning-oriented ZBA where we don't necessarily, I personally don't necessarily want to just sign off on this without knowing where planning will go with it, and if this is not it, then I'm not really sure what I'm looking at, because
As a former member of the zoning board, you can condition it.
well, of course, and now I start designing the project, and trust me, we've done plenty of that. So I'm not really sure, and I'm sure that the rest of the board will help me through this.
So I guess I'm going to give you my 2 cents, Paul.
Help me through this.
Well, we need a charrette. Well, we'll go to your office.
So what I do and what he does, or it couldn't be further from even close to each other. I'm in an office, and I'm thankful for that, because I don't want to be walking around in this. But I'll tell you right now, if my options, and I understand everybody's concerned about the pool and the wildlife and all that, and I think that we should make note that they do what they say they're going to do and preserve and improve that area. You tell me, Paul. I'd rather look at that than this.
But there's no excuse for that.
No,
There's
my
nothing.
point exactly.
The two are unrelated.
Well, no,
let's just clean that up. Done.
Okay, and then what? You still have a gravel field with.
No,
Who's paying for the $500,000 to clean it up?
I understand, but it's like I'm not going to go down that road. It's terrible, of course. Fix it.
I don't love the back of this. I'm not like, oh, I want to move there. But I'm not like, I could never look at that again.
Can I better understand what your specific, is it the height? Is it that it's all flat? Is it both? Is it that it's 3 stories and maybe 2 would be better?
It's all those things, yeah. And obviously they're already dealing with it. Rob's on it, so I'm not overly concerned. If Rob is on it, I don't need to worry about this.
Well, then let's move on.
Getting into that.
Well, no,
Wait a second. No. I do think we need to worry about it because it could be a detriment. And I recognize your point.
But I do,
and that is our purview.
I do trust planning's intuition on this.
Yeah, but they don't worry about the detriment. That's what we need to do.
I would vastly disagree because Mr. Rob.
But our purview of this board, one of the pieces of it is it a detriment to the neighborhood? I hear Paul's point.
I can tell
you
you
can condition this any way you want.
Yeah.
Not any way you want, but within reason to feel to get it to the point where you feel like it's not detrimental. And if that means breaking up the, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to clarify the issue that if there's a problem with that, and I agree. I think it could be better. It would be nice to maybe at least hear what some of those options may be for. Softening that back somehow with, and I think it.
Well, we certainly can soften the back. We certainly can soften the back by making it more like the front to that everyone seems to like that architectural look. So we definitely can do that. I think it's important for this board to realize how we've gotten to this point and how many people in Georgetown that we've met with and how many people that has given their advice and their input at what you're looking at tonight.
Sure.
This started in 2017 before we owned the property. We had 3 roundtable discussions with head of planning, head of conservation, head of board of health, building inspector. All right, 3 roundtable discussions, not one, over a 4 or 5 month period to get the concept of what you're looking at and getting advice of what has to be moved where and how. From there, we spent the next months trying to secure the property because everyone thought it was 2.25 acres because it had never been officially surveyed and they were going by the old 1800 records when it was only 1.7. That took another number of months. We finally closed on the property in March of 2018. We've owned it for almost a year. Here we are in February, because for the last year, we've been developing more, talking to those same people, going to the board's historical, economic development, the planning, to get their advice. So I don't want you to think that what you're looking at is something that was just sort of thrown together to come to ZBA. So there's been a lot of input from the town of Georgetown to get it to this point. So I'll tell you what one of my partners would like to do. And I think this is very important to understand. And you as a board can tell me if it's not possible. And my attorney can tell me. So we could put a commercial building up on this lot, take up a pretty big chunk of the lot, being closer to the neighbors than what we're proposing here by right, without taking any feedback from any committees. Then, because of what was just passed in Georgetown, Patty might be able to help me with this, we could do 7 residential units by special permit on top of that building and make it even larger with less input, with less people deciding what we're going to do. Am I close?
You're close.
As long as it's cannabis, we don't care.
So all I'm trying to say is we're trying to present something here that helps the downtown, that fits the architectural that's there, to bring life back to that building and to make it financially viable and to help the downtown make that match. So there's been a lot of thought behind this with a lot of input, with months of work. Can we make the roof maybe a little bit different? Sure. Can we make the back a little bit different? Sure. But I think that you really have to, like the other boards depend on you as the ZBA and what your job is, I think you have to depend on the other boards on what they have to do, because you have every right as a resident of Georgetown to attend them to give your input as well, even though you're a board member on ZBA. So I think that's really important to keep in mind, because we need to move on so we can get to the details that you're concerned about. But we can't if we don't know what we're going to be allowed to do, if that makes sense.
Again, I'm all for putting a comment or a condition that planning board, address the back of the design or some, I don't know how you word that, or really.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to hear. Yeah.
But I if you're giving me the option of what, and I'm fairly certain what he said is fairly accurate. We just passed the whole mixed use thing that could really open a can of worms that I'm not really particularly too fond of. But for the right spot and the right project I might be, but for this particular spot I'm not. I'd prefer this than that. Personally.
Yeah,
and we don't have to agree, because that's a luxury of this. But and I get your point. If I lived here, would I love this? I don't know. It's not bad. It's not fantastic. It's not blowing my socks off. But maybe they can do something. Right. Let's put it out there. And but this, come on.
No, I understand. I agree.
I have a question about the west side of the property where the drive is going out on the one-way. Again, I haven't done the details. I'm thinking a fence along there, a privacy fence for the neighbor would be appropriate. It's not shown on the plans.
If you feel strongly about that.
Condition, if the board was going to grant something to give them some privacy down that
That'd be
side.
fine.
And I don't know that it's necessary on the other side. That's a commercial.
One way.
On
Right.
East, west
Right.
is up, and east is down, I think. Right. I don't know that it's necessary along the other slot or not, but
northwest.
something to
Along the
consider.
west side, that's fine.
It's residential.
The fence would help with the lighting too.
Yeah.
And the lighting is not going to, I can't imagine they're going to put in pole lighting. This is going to be bollards with lighting down on the road, something like,
Right.
I've been there before. And
The existing
they're going to be
building-
lighting.
I think it's also helpful that this is an exit, so you won't have headlights going in.
But I think that
That
some
entrance.
privacy for the neighbor to
Fences,
the
if that's,
west side would certainly.
that's a condition we could live with. Sure.
I say this, everyone knows that the front of Settlers has a highway street light on it, correct? that was mounted up there?
Yeah.
So.
Very high.
Well, I know I'm not a voting member, but I really, I appreciate that all the work that y'all did to get to all the feedback from all the groups, but we have a right as a board to consider the things that we're supposed to consider, which does include detriment to the neighborhood, and as a non-voting on this, but I don't prefer to be threatened. Like, if you do this, then that. I don't appreciate that.
Yep.
But I think we need to look at the board needs to look at the merits of what's presented. And if there's a concern about the detriment to the neighborhood to the back, we have every right to discuss that. And if the board can't come to some feeling about that, then continue it. But I feel like we've been rushed on stuff like this before, and I've been known to vote ways that I regretted. And I think we need to take the time that's needed to satisfy your concerns.
And now we're in sort of board discussion, notwithstanding the fact that obviously the applicant can comment. But our options at this point are to, continue pending determination by other boards and having it come back, or we can set conditions upon which the board is satisfied. Should we decide to make a motion?
I don't think you can continue pending other boards. We have to get your decision before we have the right to apply to site plan approval.
Let me ask Jeff a question. So, what? I'm trying to think how to articulate it.
So, just so you know, in the bylaw, zoning board of appeals of special and may request site plan approval. That's not for this, sorry.
You know, they need a series of special permits from
They
this board.
gotta get
Okay.
something from
I
us
think,
first.
honestly, I think one is maybe missing from, may not be, a special permit to, for modification of a pre-existing non-conforming structure, which is removal of the back half of that building and.
That's been requested,
Is
yes.
that in your application
Yes.
specifically? Okay.
Yes, it is.
I know it was on the building inspector's denial.
Yeah, it's here.
Specifically. I think we probably need to waive the yard requirements. The board has the may by special permit waive yard requirements where appropriate to the use on lots which are in existence when the commercial or industrial district was created. So there's a 10-foot rule footnote, which I think we can waive by special permit under section 16510B.
Yep.
And then we would need to grant a special permit for more than one building on a lot, and a special permit for an apartment.
Housing.
House. I can't never
Apartment
get
house, yes.
apartment house. So there's really, I think, that's 4 special permits really that I see. That am I missing anything?
No, I think that's right.
As far as you're concerned. So we can start acting on some of those. You know, we can get into discussion about what we think about the project overall, and I'm happy to start. I think there are, this isn't perfect, and I think a lot of things do have to get ironed out. I think there's a lot of advantages, though, to this proposal, and I think there's a lot of alternatives that they could do by right. Certainly, you just read the intensity use schedule, and you see what they're allowed to do, along with the the schedule, and they can by right skip right over this board and do all kinds of things, which I think may or may not be far more potentially detrimental than what they're proposing. If I lived right near here, yeah, I'd be nervous, but we've been doing this a long time, and when somebody does things, when they come, you can tell when it's done well. And I think my personal opinion is this has been done pretty well. They've done a lot of work here. Maintaining, preserving an historic structure, I think is fabulous. It's great. You can't do that for free. You need to do something else to, couple with that. We do need housing downtown. I think it provides for that. I like the idea that it's filling in downtown as opposed to spreading out and creating another subdivision somewhere else in town. I think all in all, this is better. I think the water situation overall is really an improvement. I think there's a lot of runoff in there that's not being captured. It's not being engineered. I don't know all the problems with the pond back there and flooding and all of that, but I'm pretty familiar with the rules that they're going to have to follow to, the engineering rules are going to have to follow, and it's by definition going to end up being an improvement. So I think that's a benefit. So overall, I think this is a good project for the town, and I'd like to be able to see, and I think mixed use is better than purely residential use. I think mixed use is better than purely commercial or industrial use. I think it's a blend of both. And it's the only way to kind of get that, and that's what downtown is. It's a house with a commercial or retail restaurant next door, and then a shop, and then another house, and a historic building, and it's a series of, you go right down Main Street on either side, and this is what we have here. Whether it was by design or by happenstance, that's what Georgetown is. And conceptually, for the use, I think this fits right in. And yeah, it's a big change. And if I lived near here, I would be a bit nervous, but I have faith that this board can think it through, and that the other boards in town can really think it through and make it the best that it can be. So, that's my personal opinion on it. We would have to get comfortable, with the motions and so forth, but I understand Paul's point too, and I would like to hear, if there's at least some options, off the top of your head, not necessarily redrawing all this stuff tonight, but what conceptually could be done with the back. Give us something that you can think of that.
Right off the top of my head.
You said you're not done with it, and you got a lot of work to do. So, if you don't mind,
Daryl and I for a moment, he doesn't club me. I think the balcony that we have on the upper portion of the back could have a pergola over it that would create a little bit more interest in the back there, vines hanging off and all that, which makes some sense. I think we can do something with the roof line to bring it down a little bit. Right now, I'll be honest, I saw that view of the potential wetland garden back there, and I wanted to give it as many windows as possible on the backside.
Sure.
But I think I can frame those views a little bit more carefully.
You're talking about a pergola on, I gave my drawing away, the rear.
I'm not sure about the pergola,
Just
in my
wondering-
opinion.
Oh, you're talking about above the decks, the
Yeah.
upper level decks there?
I think it's too rectangular. For lack, yeah, monolithic.
Needs
I think it
some
needs
dormers.
something in here. Like, this is just,
I wear my heart on my sleeve. There'll be no pergolas.
no, I'm okay with the
I'm just letting you know.
Maybe if these were French doors or something a little different, I just feel like it's really vanilla. Compared to the front, this is very vanilla.
Just
Very
better windows.
rectangular.
What we might be able to do
The shutters on the back of
is,
the house.
if you look at the first to the second floor, how it looks so tall, it almost looks like it skips to the third floor.
Yeah.
John, couldn't we soften the first to the second floor, which is going to make the building down a little bit?
Yeah, but this is the bonus room. That's why they put the balcony up there. You want the balcony in the living
No,
room?
I was just wondering what, yeah.
You're covering the
Balcony.
microphone.
They want to hear every word, I'm sure.
What makes it difficult when you have single-car garages on the first floor is you don't have a lot of room on the first floor. So that's why that bonus room, we're trying to do the balcony, it's like entertainment, you know?
Right.
To me,
I do
my
think
house is, I'm sorry, my house, was built in 1780, and we did an addition, and it's hard to make it look like you didn't throw an addition on in 1991.
Right.
So, roof lines really, to me, again, I'm not an architect, but, if that can be brought down and raised back up with some sort of a dormer, either a shed dormer with a pitched roof on either side showing, something there, or more like the front where you've got some other, the dormers in the front, I don't know, something.
Yeah, the dormers would be good.
Would make that look a little less huge.
Okay.
I think. I mean, you have one building there, obviously, it is what it is, you're trying to break it.
Well, that's the other thing.
I'm just trying to.
Can it be made into three, so that there's some air getting through there?
Mr. Schoen, I drove Thad crazy and the whole team crazy. We would love to break it up. The problem is, you got 1.7 acres, so you think it's so much land.
Yeah.
But when you have to deal with septic systems,
Yeah.
it's not. So all of a sudden, every separate foundation, you got to be so many feet from it. So the time you finish with 3 separate buildings or 2 separate buildings, now you don't have enough room. So that's why they're connected, and that's why we went with what I call that staggered look, to try to break it up to give it a little depth.
Yeah, sure.
I like the staggered look. I think the staggered look is good.
Me too.
I don't know.
I'm just trying to see what sticks, Paul.
Well, I honestly, I can vote on the merits of this project, and I feel comfortable counting on the planning board to do the right thing. I just can in this case, because I happen to know the planning board. But, well, not just Rob, but all the members, they're good. And I just need to bring it up. That's all. And I can't, clearly the merits of the project are way more than what I'm looking at in the back here. And if you, honestly, with your architect, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not going to sit here and design this. There's probably 50 things I would do differently, slightly, to throw it off a little bit, throw some roof lines around, you change the siding, that's good. So, you're on the right track. So what you have to deal with is in the next 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 hearings is you still need to deal with the neighbors that are looking at it. And they carry a lot of weight with this board, and they will with the other boards as well. So you're absolutely right. There's a lot of other things you could build here that would be more detrimental than this is. This is, if you make this work and the townspeople are happy with it, we'll be good. So you're right. I mean, I look at what we have to vote on, special permits for these things. Generally, I I couldn't say no. You're acceptable. You're well within the parameters. So I just had to bring up the fact that this wasn't great, but obviously other people thought that too, including yourself. So you'll figure it out.
We will do that.
Yeah, as a voting member, I'm comfortable deciding on the merits here with respect to the special permits that the board needs to decide on. I don't know, I'm also with Paul too, in that the aesthetic on the back just is vastly different from what I really enjoy in the front, and I'm struggling sitting here thinking how to in any way condition that, but at some point I think we have to put trust in the other boards and the intent of the parties here to do right by the project, which it sounds like you are, of course. So that's sort of where I stand at this point.
That's just something I need to remind.
Gina, I don't know how you feel.
I think the things we're talking about right now really are less to do with zoning and more to do with planning.
Yeah.
I think we need housing in Georgetown. I think it's revitalizing an area that's doesn't have any oomph. And I think they've put a lot of thought into keeping in with the character of the town. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know what's there now, and it's not acceptable. I mean, we really need to do a better job as a community of building up our downtown. And maybe, in my opinion, this started maybe a decade or so ago. Certain decisions were made, but I think, you know, we have a chance to start correcting some of the things we haven't done in the past. And this is a nice complement to keep the historical component intact, and you know, they're putting, aside from the back, which again is what it is, the front looks the part, it's classy, it matches the front building, and I'm with Gina. We need housing downtown. We need foot traffic.
Sharon, I know you're an alternate, but I appreciate your input.
Oh, you're sweet. I would only suggest that maybe you consider the condition of the fencing on the side of the, or something, some condition it somehow for the house on the other side. But
And
that's
we
it.
could even add a note that we want...
Or screening.
Yeah, say we want some sort of screening, planning to handle screening along there, because if they get angry if we decide
Is
a
that
fence
west?
or...
Along the western side of the property for
I don't know
satisfaction of the plan.
east-west. It's this house.
Yeah.
It's the house that's nearby.
We can just ask planning to pick a screen,
Yeah.
whether it be trees or arborvitae's or a fence or whatever.
Yeah, on the west side of the property.
Yeah, just to buffer it from the resident.
Sure. Thank you, though.
We could start with an easy finding if you want. I think one of the things in our bylaws is we have pre-existing non-conforming structures. We like to identify what those non-conformities are before we move too much further. So, Mr. Chairman, I would move that the board find that the property at, sorry, the address.
51.
51 West Main Street, existing property, is a pre-existing non-conforming structure whereby the structure is 12 and a half feet from the front setback, where a maximum of 10 is allowed in the bylaw per footnote number 14. Covering it up.
I think we all just learned about that footnote.
So that's the motion.
Is there a
that the board
motion
make
here?
Find there. Yeah.
Second.
Second that.
Second, is there board discussion around that?
I'd just say that, like I said, generally we try to identify the nonconformities for the record and make a finding that it meets the requirements as a pre-existing nonconforming structure, so then it can enjoy the benefits of Section 16594.
Prepared to vote on discussion. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
So I further move, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, that the board find that the modification to the pre-existing non-conforming structure at 51 Main Street is not substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood, and that it meets the, I gotta find my series of special
Want
permit
165
requirements. Yeah.
94?
Sorry. I need my list of special permit requirements. I have it here.
I didn't take it.
No. Are desirable, and the change is desirable to the public convenience and welfare, will not overload any public water or other municipal systems, so as to unduly subject any area to hazards affecting health, safety, or the general welfare, will not impair the integrity or character of the district or adjoining districts, will restore and maintain an historic element to the town, will not cause an excess of that particular use which could be detrimental to the character of the neighborhood, will meet the intent and purpose of the bylaw by maintaining the historic building along the streetscape, will result in a significant improvement of the entire site with the restoration of the existing antique structure along the streetscape and redevelopment, and clean up the rear of the site. And what else is there? Hang on, sorry. Did I get them all?
Property
There we
address,
go.
utility
There we
service,
go.
traffic.
Thank
light.
you. Requested use will not overload any public water or the municipal system so as to unduly subject any area to hazards affecting health, safety, and the general welfare. Requested use will not impair the integrity of the character of the district, the adjoining district, and requested use will not cause an excess of that particular use which could be detrimental to the character of the neighborhood. What I'm referring to is the modification of the existing existing non-conforming structure.
That concludes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Board discussion here? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Want to make another motion?
Too many here. Yeah, I know. I added a few on there, but that's all right. It's fine.
You keeping up, Patty? You okay?
Hang on.
I think he's reading from this.
Yeah, it's fine. Relative to the overall project at 51 West Main Street, I'd like to move that the board waive the minimum yard requirements as they are appropriate to the use sought. And this lot was in existence when the commercial industrial district was created under 165-10. If we grant a special permit, cite that finding.
Under subsection B.
Subsection B.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
What is that?
We have the Board of Appeals made by special permit waive the minimum yard requirements where appropriate to the use sought.
Oh, so this is basically the same thing as the other one? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's for the footnote.
Oh,
So we identified.
I already
that
did the footnote.
We identified that it
Yes,
was a
gotcha,
pre-existing
gotcha.
non-conforming structure.
Okay, I understand. I just want to know what I'm voting on.
Yeah, no, these aren't the clearest motions in the world. Okay, so this is under 165-10, subsection B.
Yep.
Second.
Dave, second.
Dave's.
One more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
So, Mr. Chairman, based on the findings that we made tonight, I move that the board vote to grant a special permit pursuant to section 165-81 for the project at 51 West Main Street to allow a second structure and use on the site.
Second?
Second.
Dave, second. Any discussion?
Where are we adding the condition for the screening?
Right here.
Thank you.
before it, about a friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment to have site planning choose an appropriate screening along the west side of the one-way drive for the,
A butter.
yeah, for the residents abutting.
To the satisfaction of the planning board for site plan review?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
Yeah.
Under site plan approval.
Yeah, site plan, thank you. And, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to do another friendly amendment that the board, in granting this special permit under 165-79, again, find that the additional structure is potential desire for public convenience and welfare, will not overload any public water or the municipal system as to unduly subject any areas to hazards affecting health, safety, and the general welfare, will not impair the integrity or character of the district or adjoining districts, will not cause an excess of that particular use which could be detrimental to the district.
Do I have a second?
Before we, at this point, mentioning the back, that we want them to, should we put something in there that we want them to address that, or do we assume they will do that?
On the back, what do you mean, like
The back of the
facade?
building, do we want something within this section, a friendly amendment or a note to say, just take a peek and...
I thought we would, maybe, if we wanted to, we could add that as an apartment house special permit.
Yeah, we do have one more special permit
Okay.
to grant. We could do it there.
Do you,
Second.
can I ask a quick question? Do we want to specify the length of the screening? Or is it assumed all the way to the end of the first unit there? Like,
Along the driveway.
Yeah.
I would think where it abuts
Where the pavement is.
to the end of, I would think at least past the
We
house.
frame it as appropriate screening for the butter to the west of the
Appropriate, yeah.
property as
The
the
site
satisfaction of the
planning,
planning
that
board.
they handle that. I don't know.
I think the motion included the discretion of
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah.
board.
You didn't vote on Gina's amendment.
No, that's what we're
So there were
talking
two,
about.
there were
Okay.
two amendments to that motion.
Mine was the screening, his was the.
To add the amendments,
Or.
and then we'll vote on the motion.
I don't need a sec, okay. So, can we,
So I'd moved to make the two amendments, one for the screening and one to add the 165-79 findings.
Second, the friendly amendments.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I think Dave, you had seconded the original motion?
Yes.
Which now includes those amendments? Sorry.
No, thanks. Procedurally, got a little complicated
Yeah.
here.
Sorry, I don't have it all written out. So we're back to discussion on the original.
Any discussion?
Special permit
Granting a
for,
special permit for the second structure.
for the apartment building?
Nope.
Nope.
Oh, second structure,
More than
okay,
one-
all right,
more
we're
than one
still on that
building
one.
on the lot.
No more discussion. We're done with that one. Let's move on.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
No.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Patty, you getting all this?
I can help you out.
I got the tape. He's gonna, yeah. I got them.
Mr. Chairman, based on the findings made tonight, I would move that the board vote to grant a special permit pursuant to the use regulation table, section 165, attachment 2.2, to allow an apartment house at the rear of 51 West Main Street, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant shall work to obtain site plan approval under section 165-83. The project shall comply with the inclusionary housing balance bylaws applicable section 165-79. That the applicant will work to improve the facade of the rear of the building. Pause there for a second. Paul, how do you want to frame that?
That's perfect, that's sufficient.
Okay.
Because I can go to the meeting with the planning board, right? I'm not, right? So.
Yeah, you're a
as
resident.
citizen-
resident. Yeah.
You just
Probably
can't, you
won't,
can't,
but it's
three,
all right.
you just,
I trust you guys.
just, two can go, three can't go, because that's a quorum. That's
Right.
It's all you, Paul.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Really?
Completion
Jeff,
of the
can you
motion.
just say that again?
Yeah.
But I'm not voting, so I wouldn't be.
Just kidding.
Or
I
is
don't know that it can.
I won't be able to.
Are you going
Condition
to?
would be to improve the rear facade of.
Rear-facing facade.
Of the project.
Thank you.
I'll call it project overall. Your screening, trees.
It leaves a lot out there, which is fine. It's vague, but again, we have to, at some point, we have to let the planning board do their job.
We need a second on
No,
that.
hang on. I'm
Oh,
not done
sorry.
yet. And
Oh,
further
that's
that the, in granting the permit for the apartment house is desirable public to the community and welfare, will not overload any public water or the municipal system so as to unduly subject any area to hazards affecting health, safety, and the general welfare, will not impair the integrity or character of the district or joining districts, and will not cause an excess of that particular use which could be detrimental to the character of the neighborhood.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Any board discussion around that motion?
The A through D are findings, and the other is the
Findings.
condition. The other three are conditions.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? The motion carries unanimously.
I think we covered all four of the requested, required special permits. Sorry they weren't all laid out clearly,
Right.
but
We did. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time tonight.
Okay, so there's a 20-day appeal period. Following 14 days, the clerk has to file written decision with the town clerk. Anybody who exercises rights under an appealed special permit does so at their own risk. And do I have a motion to, lapse of a special permit as well. Per Mass General Law, Section 48, or Chapter 48, Section 9, special permits granted shall lapse within a specified period of time, not more than 3 years, which shall not include such time required to pursue or await the determination of an appeal referred to in Section 17, if a substantial use thereof is not sooner commenced except for good cause, or in the case of a permit construction, if construction is not begun by such date except for good cause. Do I have a motion to close the hearing for 51 West Main Street? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
And thanks to folks in the audience for coming
Yes.
too.
Thank you. I'm blaming you now. It looks like shit. It's your fault.
He was ad-libbing.
So you didn't go by this?
All good.
No, they can be built.
Okay.
She's not gonna.
We'll chat.
We gotta make sure that.